The sea was dark and silent that night. Clouds covered the moon, and waves hit the massive aircraft carrier like nature was warning something terrible was about to happen. The ship had thousands of sailors, pilots, and engineers, all busy working for a big mission. This mission was more important than anything they had faced before. It was a secret mission. A mission that could decide victory or defeat. But nobody knew a disaster was waiting to strike. Inside the control room, alarms suddenly started screaming. The red danger lights flashed again and again. The huge aircraft carrier, the pride of the Navy, stopped moving. The engine, the heart of the ship, refused to start again. All screens went black. The ship became dead in the middle of the ocean. Engineers ran everywhere in panic. They tried restarting systems. They pressed every button. They checked every wire, but nothing worked. The ship was stuck, and the enemy could attack any time. Admiral Jackson, a strong man with experience of many years in the Navy, stood silently while watching the chaos. Sweat rolled down his face. This had never happened before. The Navy's most powerful engine was dead. The Admiral knew what this meant. No engine meant no power. No power meant the ship could not defend itself. The young chief engineer, David, shouted, "Try again! Check the main power lines. We must restart it." But nothing happened. The Admiral's voice was deep and cold. "How long can the ship survive without power?" David swallowed hard. "Sir, maybe a few hours. After that, we are in big danger." The Admiral looked at him with angry, worried eyes. "I want answers, now." David shook his head. "Sir, we tried everything. The engine just failed. I don't know why." Those were the worst words the Admiral could hear. Outside, pilots waited in their planes, ready for orders, but they could not fly. Jets needed power to launch. Everyone felt trapped. The Admiral walked through the engine room. He saw sparks, smoke, and young engineers with shaking hands. Fear was everywhere. Someone whispered, "If the enemy finds us now, we are finished." The Admiral took a deep breath. He knew only one person who could solve this, but that man was long gone. That man had disappeared from Navy life many years ago. He was a legend, but a forgotten one. The Admiral looked at the old photograph in his office. A picture of a young engineer smiling proudly beside a brand new engine. That man had built this exact engine. He knew every screw, every bolt, every secret. His hands had created the power that now refused to wake up. His name was William Gray. For many years, William was known as a genius, a man who could fix anything, a man with knowledge that others only dreamed about. But one day, he left the Navy. No one knew why. Some said he was tired, some said he was betrayed, some said he saw something dangerous, and walked away. But the engine he built stayed behind, serving the Navy proudly. Now the Navy needed him again more than ever. The Admiral whispered to himself, "He is the only one who can save us." Without another second, he ordered the communication officer. "Find William Gray. Contact him. Tell him the U.S. Navy calls for him again." The officer looked surprised. "Sir, he has been gone for many years. Will he even answer?" The Admiral stared at him with sharp eyes. "He will." Far away from the ocean, in a small quiet town, an old man worked in his dusty garage. His hair was white, and his hands were rough and tired. He wore a simple blue shirt, his face calm but full of old memories. It was William Gray. Every morning he repaired small engines for neighbors. Lawn mowers, old bikes, nothing big anymore. He liked silence. Life was slow. Life was peaceful. Nobody looked at him like a hero anymore. But inside his heart, he remembered everything. The sound of the powerful carrier engine, the respect he once had, the uniform he once wore, the pride. He tried not to think about those days. He thought they were gone forever. Suddenly, the loud ring of his old phone broke the silence. "Ring, ring, ring!" William slowly picked it up. "Hello?" A young officer's voice spoke fast and nervous. "Mr. Gray, sir. The Navy needs your help." "The carrier engine has stopped." William frowned. "Call your engineers." "I am retired," the officer insisted. "Sir, our best engineers have failed. You are the only one who understands this engine completely." William shook his head. "Those days are over. I don't belong there anymore." Before hanging up, the officer said one last thing. "Sir, if you don't come, thousands of lives may be lost." Those words froze William. He slowly put the phone down. His eyes moved to an old wooden box in the corner. The box had a Navy symbol carved into it. Inside that box was his old uniform, perfectly folded. Waiting. He opened the box slowly. He saw his medals, his name badge, his gloves. His hands shook. Memories hit him like a storm. He remembered explosions. He remembered fire. He remembered a decision long ago. A decision that changed everything. A decision that made him leave. He whispered to himself, almost in pain, "Not again." But then, he heard another sound in his mind. The engine roar. The engine he created. The engine calling him back. With a deep breath, William stood up straight for the first time in years. He knew what he must do. He picked up his uniform, brushed the dust away, and said only one thing. The legend returns. Back on the carrier, the Admiral waited on the deck. The ocean was silent, like it was watching the story unfold. Every sailor stared toward the dark sky, hoping for a miracle. A helicopter's sound slowly grew louder. Thump, 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 thump. Wind blew across the deck. Lights flashed. The helicopter landed. The door opened. Boots stepped out. A shadow walked forward. Slow, confident, powerful. Every sailor held their breath. The Admiral smiled for the first time that night. He whispered, "Welcome back, William Gray." But the crew looked confused. Some even laughed quietly. "That old man? He is going to fix our engine?" A young engineer whispered mockingly. William heard him. He did not react. He simply looked at the gigantic, silent engine, like he knew exactly what was wrong, like he had been waiting for this moment. The legend was back, but the battle to save the Navy was only beginning. William Gray stepped onto the giant deck with slow, calm steps. The sound of the helicopter faded behind him, but the tension in the air stayed solid and heavy. Everyone watched him, some with hope, some with doubt, many with confusion. The Admiral walked forward and gave a respectful salute. "It's good to see you again, William," he said. William nodded gently. "Let's save your ship, Admiral." The Admiral quickly guided him through the long passageways of the carrier. The emergency lights flickered, creating a dark and scary atmosphere. Sailors stood silently as the old man walked past them. Some whispered, "Is this really the man they called the legend? He looks older than my grandfather. He can't fix anything. He needs a cane, not tools." But William didn't care. He had heard worse before. He only cared about the engine. His creation. When they reached the engine room, William stopped and stared at the giant machine in front of him. His eyes became sharp, focused, alive. The massive turbine and thousands of wires told a story only he could read. The chief engineer, David, stepped forward, trying to hide his frustration. "Sir, we already checked everything. There is no problem visible anywhere." William calmly looked at him. "Sometimes the problem is not visible. Sometimes the problem is hidden." David frowned, annoyed. "Sure, old magic tricks, right?" The Admiral shot him a warning look. But William didn't react. He slowly placed his hand on the cold metal of the engine. It felt like touching a sleeping beast. He whispered, "Wake up, old friend." William asked for silence. He wanted to listen, not with ears, but with years of experience. He slowly walked around the engine, eyes scanning every pipe, every valve, every piece of metal. He touched wires, checked bolts, and listened to the engine like a doctor listens to a heartbeat. "You added new systems after I left," he said suddenly. David rolled his eyes. "Technology changes. We upgraded your old design." William turned and stared into David's eyes. "That is the problem." Everyone looked confused. William continued, "This engine was made to be simple, strong, reliable. You added too much technology, too many systems that depend on each other. When one fails, all of them fail." David's face turned red with embarrassment, but he stayed silent. William pointed to a closed panel. "Behind that panel, there is a master valve that controls the entire airflow. If that valve fails, the engine dies." David looked shocked. "There is nothing behind that panel." "We checked everything." William smiled slightly. "Not everything. There is a hidden lock here. Only I and 2 other people knew this." He touched a small metallic circle, almost invisible, and pressed it. Click! The panel opened like a secret door. Inside was a narrow passage. Dark. Dusty. Forgotten. The Admiral and the engineers stared with wide eyes. No one had ever seen that before. William took a small flashlight and stepped inside. The air smelled like burnt metal. The place was so tight that even the youngest engineers might struggle. But William moved through with purpose. At the end of the passage, he found it. The master valve. It was broken, and sparks were coming from wires that were never meant to be touched. "This is it," he whispered. He turned to call for help, but something happened. The ship shook. Hard. Alarms screamed again. Engineers panicked. David yelled, "Sir, the power backup is failing. We are losing oxygen pressure." The Admiral shouted, "We must fix this faster." William remained calm. "Bring me a wrench and manual cutters, not electronic ones. Manuel. Bring me a wrench and manual cutters, not electronic ones. Manuel." David hesitated. In his modern world, manual tools were ancient, but the Admiral nodded. Give him what he needs. Sweat dripped from William's face as he worked in silence. His old hands moved quickly, every action full of skill and confidence. Sparks flew, smoke rose, and the tight space made breathing difficult. But he didn't stop. David watched through the panel opening, shocked at how fast the old man worked. How does he know all this? He whispered. The Admiral replied quietly, because he built it with his own hands. William scraped away burned wires, replaced broken parts, and reconnected the valve to the main power line. But something still bothered him. Why did this break? This valve was strong, too strong to fail randomly. He looked closer. An extra wire. A new one. Connected to the valve system. He pulled it out and examined it. This was added during upgrades, he said loudly. David looked embarrassed. Yes, I installed it myself. It was for automatic control. William shook his head slowly. The engine rejected your upgrade. That wire overloaded the valve. The machine tried to protect itself and shut down everything. David's pride broke. His voice went weak. I didn't know. William finally looked at him, not with anger, but with wisdom. Machines are like people, son. You can't change their heart without understanding it first. David felt his face burn with shame. Outside, the crew was running everywhere. Emergency oxygen masks dropped from ceilings. Pilots were shouting for orders. Lights flickered like lightning inside the ship. A sailor shouted, "Enemy radar has detected us! They're coming!" The Admiral clenched his fists. "William!" "How much time?" William didn't stop working. 5 minutes, David yelled. "We don't have 5 minutes," William replied calmly. "Then pray I finish in 4. He cut the final wire and tightened the last bolt. "Done," he said. He crawled out and looked at the Admiral. "Start the airflow pump." Slowly. David hesitated, hands shaking. This was the final moment. He flipped the switch. The engine hummed. Only a tiny sound. But it was alive. "That's it," William whispered. The hum grew slightly louder, but then, boom! A loud spark shot out. The engine stopped again. Everyone's eyes widened. David shouted, "It's not working!" William stood up straight, his breathing heavy, his voice calm. "No, the engine is testing us. Give it a moment." But the Admiral looked scared. "Enemy ships will reach us soon. We need full power now." William stared at the machine, his creation, like a father looking at his son. Under his breath, he murmured, "You are stronger than this. Prove them wrong." A single light on the engine control panel blinked. Then another. Then another. Beep, beep, beep. The control system rebooted slowly like a heartbeat returning to life. David looked shocked. "This shouldn't be possible." William smiled. "The engine remembers who built it." The hum grew. The lights grew brighter. The ship shook. Power surged. Every engineer stepped back as the massive turbine began spinning again. Faster! Louder! Stronger. Like a giant waking from a deep sleep. The Admiral's eyes filled with hope. "Is it alive?" William put his hand on the railing and watched proudly. "It is alive. But we are not safe yet." The Admiral nodded. "What now?" William looked at the expanding radar signal on the screen. "Enemy dots growing closer," he whispered. "Now, we fight." But deep inside, he knew something much darker. Someone on this ship caused the engine failure. On purpose, and that hidden enemy was still watching. The engine was alive again, but fear still moved through the entire ship like cold wind. Sailors ran to their stations. Pilots prepared their jets. Officers shouted orders. The giant aircraft carrier finally had power. But danger was not over. Enemy radar signals were still closing in. The Admiral stood tall, voice strong. "Prepare for battle positions. Stay alert. We are not out of danger yet." But William Gray, the man who saved the ship, did not feel victory. He felt something else. Something dark. Something wrong. That hidden wire he found. It was not an accident. Someone installed it secretly. Someone who knew that breaking the master valve would kill the engine. Someone inside the Navy wanted this ship to fall. A traitor. William walked toward the engine's control area again. The young chief engineer, David, followed him nervously. David felt embarrassed. His mistake almost destroyed the entire carrier. But William did not blame him. Instead, he said, "Listen carefully. If someone added that wire without your orders, that means someone wants this ship destroyed." David looked shocked. "But who would do that? We are one team." William's eyes were cold. Not everyone wearing a uniform is loyal. David swallowed his fear. Meanwhile, in the control room, the Admiral looked at the radar. 3 enemy ships were approaching fast. They needed more speed. And fast. Or they would be caught. He radioed William. "Engine must reach full power. We need to move, now! William answered calmly. We will give you more speed than you expect, Admiral. But there is a problem I must solve first. The Admiral frowned. What problem? William paused. He did not want panic to spread. Just keep your men ready, and trust me. Back in the engine room, William searched for clues. The hidden wire was only the beginning. Sabotage like this never happens with just one change. The traitor must have left more traps. William crawled under pipes. He climbed ladders. He checked control boards. His flashlight cut through darkness. David asked, "What exactly are we looking for?" William replied, "Things that do not belong. Wires that lead nowhere. Parts that look new. Something small but dangerous." Suddenly, William froze. His flashlight hit a small box attached behind a panel. A box painted to match the wall. Very easy to hide. Very easy to miss. What is that? David whispered. William took a closer look. A bomb. A silent explosive placed directly beside the fuel line. If the engine reached full power, boom! The entire ship would be destroyed in less than a second. David's face turned white. "We must remove it, now!" William grabbed his arm. "Stop! If we touch it the wrong way, it will explode." David's voice shook. "Then, what do we do?" William stared at the small blinking light on the device. "It is set to activate when the engine reaches maximum power." He turned toward David slowly. "The enemy is not outside yet. The enemy is inside the ship." They had to work fast. The Admiral's voice echoed from the radio. "We need more power. The enemy is almost in firing range." William responded, "You will get power. Give me 2 minutes." But inside, he hoped they would survive 2 minutes. William opened the bomb carefully. Inside were tangled wires, a digital timer, and a remote trigger chipset. It was modern, professional. This was not a mistake. "Someone with high access did this," William whispered. David looked around at the engineers working nearby. Suddenly, every face looked suspicious. The Admiral's voice came again, louder and angrier. "William, what is happening down there?" William did not want to cause panic. So he simply replied, "We are making sure the engine stays alive, sir." He cut the first wire. Carefully, slowly. The timer stopped blinking for a second, then blinked faster. David gasped, "You made it worse." William did not react. His hands stayed steady. "I spent years creating this machine. I will not let one coward destroy it." He cut the second wire. The blinking slowed again. "One more wire left." "A red one," David whispered. "Please, don't choose wrong." William took a deep breath. Sweat rolled down his forehead. His fingers held the red wire. The whole ship seemed frozen, watching him. Then, snip! The light on the bomb turned black. William exhaled. "It's disarmed." David let out a loud breath, almost crying with relief. But William wasn't satisfied. He stood up and said, "This bomb is not the real threat. The real threat is the man who placed it here." The Admiral called again. "William, we are ready for full power. We need speed!" William nodded. "You will have it." He signaled the engineers. "Start power increase, but slowly. I need to watch how the engine reacts." As the turbine spun faster, the giant ship moved forward, cutting through the dark ocean. Soldiers cheered. Pilots prepared for takeoff. The Admiral smiled. "Good work, William." But William did not smile. He looked around the room again. Someone was missing. He turned to David. "Where's the assistant technician who worked here earlier?" "The one with the black gloves?" David frowned. "You mean Miller? He was here before you came, but then he left." William's eyes turned dark. "Find him." Suddenly, an explosion rocked the left side of the ship. Boom! Sailors screamed. Lights flickered. Smoke filled a hallway. Alarms shouted. "Fire on deck 3! Fire on deck 3!" The Admiral yelled, "We are under attack!" But William knew. "No," he whispered. "This is inside." Again, as fire crews rushed to deck 3, William grabbed a radio. "Lock down the engine room. No one leaves." David nodded and ordered security. Armed guards blocked every exit. Then another alarm. "Security risk. Unknown person near engine chamber." David pointed. "William, he is close." William felt his heart race for the first time. The traitor was not far. He was desperate, and a desperate traitor is the most dangerous enemy. William grabbed a wrench, the only weapon near him, and stepped forward. "Where are you?" he said quietly. The shadows answered with a voice. "Old man, you should have stayed retired." A figure stepped into the light, smiling, holding a remote detonator. It was Miller. He pressed a button. A timer started somewhere deep inside the engine room. 30 seconds until destruction, a robotic voice announced. William's eyes widened. Miller laughed. Let's see if the legend can save them now. David screamed for security, but Miller slipped back into the shadows. William shouted. Everyone back up, power off. Cut fuel flow now. The Admiral's voice rushed through the radio. What is happening? William yelled back. We have a traitor! He set another bomb. Panic erupted. Soldiers ran. Engineers froze. The ship slowed again. Engines shutting down to prevent a massive blast. The countdown continued. 15 seconds. William and David searched wildly. The bomb could be anywhere. Wires everywhere. Pipes everywhere. Too much to check. And seconds. William looked at the engine, and suddenly he knew. He sprinted toward a large pipe, the main fuel injector. Seconds. He ripped off the cover. Sparks shot out. There it was. The bomb. Seconds. David shouted, Throw it! Throw it away! William grabbed the device. 2 seconds. He threw it into a disposal chute. 1 second. Boom! A huge blast echoed outside, away from the engine. Everyone fell to the floor from the shockwave. Silence. Smoke drifted through the room. The engine was safe, but the fight was far from over. The Admiral called again, breathless. William! Are you alive? William stood slowly, gripping a railing to balance himself. Yes, but the traitor is still here, and he will strike again. The Admiral's voice grew cold. Then we will find him. William stared into the dark passageway where Miller disappeared, his voice low and deadly. No, Admiral. I will. William's old boots hit the metal floor fast as he moved through the dark passageways. The ship was awake now. Alarms, voices, running footsteps. But inside William's mind, all noise disappeared. Only one mission mattered. Stop the traitor. Save the ship. Miller, the man who tried to destroy everything William ever built, was still out there. The Admiral called through the radio. Security teams are searching every deck. But William replied, No, he will come back to the engine. That is his target, because the engine was not just power. It was the symbol of the Navy's pride. William returned to the engine room and waited. David stood beside him, scared but determined. Do you think he will come here again? David asked. William nodded slowly. A traitor always returns to finish the job. Lights flickered. A shadow moved behind the pipes. William whispered, Show yourself. Coward! Miller stepped out, holding a knife, rage burning in his eyes. You old fool, he growled. You should never have returned. But I did, William said calmly. Miller rushed toward him, but William moved faster than a retired man should. He grabbed a heavy wrench from a nearby table and blocked the knife. Metal clashed. Sparks flew. David ran to call help, but Miller kicked him away. William stood between the traitor and the engine, refusing to let him pass. You don't know what this ship has done, Miller screamed. You don't know the truth. William's voice stayed steady. Maybe not, but I know this. Betrayal is never the answer. Miller pushed forward violently, but William used all his strength, slamming the wrench into the control railing. The vibration shook Miller's grip, and the knife slid away. Miller stumbled. William grabbed his shirt and pinned him against the engine. Breathing heavy, William said, You tried to destroy something bigger than all of us. Why? Miller spat. Because the Navy forgot people like me. William's eyes softened, just a little. I was forgotten too, he said. But we don't destroy our own home because of pain. Security guards arrived and grabbed Miller. As they dragged him away, he shouted, You can't save them all, old man. You will fail like everyone else. But William did not answer. He just watched as the threat finally disappeared. The Admiral rushed into the room, relief on his face. You saved us again, he said proudly. William shook his head. Not me. The engine saved us. It trusted me, and I trusted it. David stepped forward. Sir, I will learn from you. I want to understand this engine the way you do. William smiled, a soft, proud smile. Good. One day, you will protect it better than I ever did. The Admiral looked at William's worn-out uniform. Will you stay with us? We could use a mind like yours. William looked around. The metal walls, the strong engine, the young crew full of hope. A familiar warmth filled his heart. But then, he shook his head. No, Admiral. My part in the Navy is complete. This world belongs to them now. The Admiral saluted him, one final time. And this time, everyone in the room followed, saluting the legend who saved them all. William walked to the deck. The sun was rising, golden light touching the endless sea. He stood quietly, watching the waves. A young sailor ran up and asked, Sir, who are you really? William smiled gently and replied, I am someone who never gave up on what he built. A helicopter arrived to take him home. As it lifted into the sky, the carrier's engines roared, loud and powerful, like they were saying goodbye to their creator. William looked down at the ship and whispered, "Legends don't need to stay. They just need to return when they are needed." And then he disappeared over the horizon, the legend who built the engine, the hero who saved the Navy, the man they will never forget. Navy, the man they will never forget.